Hello, everybody, and welcome back to In the Corner. I'm Cash. Today we have episode 156, and we have got a huge event tomorrow night in Los Angeles. Not only is it the first Netflix MMA event, it's also the first MVP MMA event, and it is quite possibly the most single stacked card outside of the UFC we have ever seen. Maybe. It's ridiculous. We got a lot of other fights this week, and Keyshawn Davis is back. Dave Allen versus Filip Hrgovic, and then a UFC Apex card, and some other news, but let's just hop right into it with the big one. MVP MMA number one, Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano. Ronda Rousey, arguably the biggest star in MMA outside of Conor McGregor. She's probably right there. Let's see, when was the last time the Ronda Rousey fight? I believe it was 2016. Yeah, she has not fought since December 30th, 2016. That was on a two-fight losing streak. Look, I mean, very, very high win rate. I believe that every win has come by submission. So that's pretty crazy. I mean, not even the losses are also by finish. Actually, some of the wins are by TKO, but no matter what, 100% finish rate. You're guaranteed an exciting fight when she is in the cage. And, I mean, she's one of the biggest stars in the sport ever. Gina Carano has not fought since 2009. And she actually never fought in the modern UFC. She fought in, was a Strikeforce. So, I don't know, man. I mean, look, I'm super excited for this event. I think it's going to be huge. I know some people have been crapping on it, saying like, look, these are, older fighters. And look, they are. I mean, we just said it. They haven't fought in, Ronda Rousey hasn't fought in nearly a decade. Gina Carano hasn't fought in nearly 2 decades. These are not in their prime fighters. They are certainly past it. And this is more than certainly the last time we'll see both of them fight. Ronda Rousey, I could see her sticking around for another one. Gina Carano, I definitely think this last one. As for who I think is going to win, fairly obvious to say. I think Ronda Rousey is a huge favorite coming into this. Just because, one, she is the more historic, fighter. She's higher on the GOAT list. And take that out of it, she also is younger. And she hasn't had as long of a layoff. And even in that layoff, she was doing WWE, all this kind of other stuff, still staying very active in a way. I'm not saying that Gina Carano is not active, but not in a sport discipline as much. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I hope it's just not a stinker. I hope they can throw in a good fight. It's at featherweight, 5 rounds. I think it's a massive fight. I can't believe the MVP has figured out how to get their own MMA card and put Ronda Rousey on it. I mean, this is just unbelievable that they have that there is a true mega fight happening on Netflix, and it's not with the UFC. It's another promotion. This is their first ever MMA event, and it's wild. Co-main event is going to be Nate Diaz, Mike Perry. This is the one that I think we're all most waiting for. Nate Diaz, of course, one of the biggest stars in the UFC. He's had some boxing matches recently. This is his return to MMA. It's also the return to MMA for Mike Perry. He was never the crazy MMA fighter in the UFC. I think he went like, 8-7, 7-8, something like that in the promotion. And he's made his name for himself in BKFC. Both of these guys have fought on MVP cards before. They both lost to Jake Paul in boxing matches. Here they get a chance to return to MMA. And this is another interesting one, 5 rounds at welterweight. And I think that Mike Perry is a slight favorite, and I do kind of believe that he has the edge in this fight. But I also think people are forgetting this is MMA. And if you look at the two careers in MMA, it's not even close that Nate Diaz is a way better mixed martial artist than Mike Perry is. But like we mentioned, Nate Diaz is a little bit older. He hasn't been nearly as active as Mike Perry has been. And Mike Perry seems to have really discovered his striking, and he's in his prime right now, or at least very close to it. So I give Mike Perry the slightest edge. And that's just because I feel like Nate Diaz, knowing him, he's just going to kind of like walk around the cage and not really go for it. Or Mike Perry, he's not going to play that game with you. He's going to come and he's going to come to kill you. So it should be interesting. It's guaranteed to be a banger. Cannot wait for that one. And then the featured fight is going to be Francis Ngannou making his return against Philipe Lins. I mean, again, this 3-fight stacked card is unbelievable that they were able to do this outside of the UFC. No offense to Philipe Lins. He's definitely a higher tier MMA fighter in the world in general. It's a 5-round fight. There is no way that Francis Ngannou does not finish him. It would be a massive upset if Francis Ngannou did not get the KO win. And then, I mean, look, I feel like the writing is on the wall. The UFC cannot make John Jones versus Francis Ngannou. Both of those fighters are now disgruntled with the promotion. John Jones will be on the broadcast on Saturday night on Netflix. I feel like it's really easy, not easy, but it's really easy to see what MVP should do, and that is they should do everything in their power to pay John Jones whatever he wants and pay Francis Ngannou whatever he wants. Make that fight happen on Netflix next for MVP MMA 2. Whether that's later this year or early next year, that is just such a high IQ play. You make the super fight the UFC couldn't, and you put it on Netflix, and then the UFC would really have to start paying attention to you. They're putting their own card on at the same time, and I'm sure a fair amount of people watch it. But look, this is going to be the most watched MMA event of the year, and it's not even like the White House. I mean, how is the UFC not have the most viewed MMA fight of the year? It's insane. And look, there are other UFC cards that will do better. As for where I think this lands viewership-wise, probably around the 10 million mark, maybe 15 if they can really, draw some more attention. I think it's possible with having guys like Nate Diaz on there as well. So I think probably 10, 15, 20 million is their range. I'd be really impressed if it went above 20 million. Just previous Netflix numbers, Jake Paul, Mike Tyson did like 100 million, whatever, crazy. Canelo Crawford, I think that one did around 40 million, 41 million. Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua did 33 million. And then Taylor Serrano, I think around 7 million. And Fury Makhmudov did 5 million in the UK. They didn't disclose the global number, which makes me think it wasn't much higher than that. So we'll see what reigns in there. This is not boxing. This is MMA. But they still have those super names. It's going to be really interesting. The rest of the card is really good. Again, for a non-UFC card, it's great. Saladin Parnas makes his U.S. debut against Kenneth Cross. I mean, I've heard a lot of good things about Parnas. I think he's like a 2-division champion in KSW, so everyone's very excited about him making his debut over here. Junior Dos Santos versus Rubeles to Spain will open up the main card. Heavyweight fight. That one should be light heavyweight fight, excuse me. That one should be very exciting. The main event of the prelims got a ton of talk at the press conference. That is Nemo Fazil versus Jake Bobby, and Fazil had a lot to say, and Bobby was talking back to him, so should be interesting to see how that one goes. These next 2 fights were supposed to be better. Adriano Moraes meant to fight Muhammad Makayev. I'm really disappointed that fight isn't happening, but he will instead be fighting Fumi Nkuta, who's undefeated. Jason Jackson was meant to fight Lorenzo Larkin. He's instead going to be fighting Jeff Creighton. So we'll have to see how that one goes. And then David Mgoyan, who is a friend of Arman Tsarukyan's, fights Albert Morales. Aylin Pereira, the sister of Alex Pereira, fighting Jade Mason Wong, who's from BKFC. And then you got Chris Avila, the sidekick, I like to call him, of Nate Diaz, fighting Brandon Jenkins in the opener fight. So really, really deep card. I'm excited for it, dude. I bet the production is going to be top-notch. It's going to be a ton of fun to watch, super entertaining. Looking forward to it. Let's hop over to boxing for a second. Keyshawn Davis, one of the best rising young fighters in the entire sport, is making his return. His second fight in the 140-pound division. He obviously fought in January against Jimmy Ortiz. Looked fantastic on that night. Now he rematches Nahir Albright. Now, the first fight with Nahir Albright was a no contest, and that is because Keyshawn got tested positive for marijuana, which I don't understand how that becomes a no contest when he still won the fight. Well, I guess that's why, but marijuana is certainly not a performance-enhancing drug. It shouldn't really be illegal at all for boxing because it doesn't have anything to do with it. It's certainly not a performance-enhancing drug. In fact, it's quite the opposite, one would think. So that was pretty dumb. Anyways, I've heard that fight, it's a little bit closer. You have the Albright fight here, the rematch, and here Albright did have a win over his brother Kelvin Davis. So there you have that bad blood. Of course, they brawled afterwards. So there's definitely the storyline there. Keyshawn wanting to get revenge over him. And here Albright did draw with Frank Martin in his last fight. So he's been on a good run. Beating Kelvin Davis was a great fight. Him and Frank Martin's fight was awesome. And the fact that he drew with Frank Martin was really impressive. So I don't think that Nahir Albright is not a good fighter. I think he's got a fair amount of momentum. It's just, I think that Keyshawn Davis probably stops him. And I think this is a step back in competition going from Jermaine Ortiz to Nahir Albright. I do think that's a step down. We'll see. Maybe it's more exciting than I'm giving them credit for. But, yeah, I have to think that Keyshawn gets this one done. Not super difficult. Not with much difficulty. I think the co-main event on there is going to be Brian Norman Jr. He's taking on Josh Wagner. This is a comeback fight for Norman. I would have liked him to fight a little bit of a better opponent, but I'll take the Josh Wagner fight. He fought Harlem Eubank a while back. This is Norman's first fight since the dominant loss to Devin Haney. I believe he's not even training with his father anymore, so we'll have to see how he looks. But again, I think Norman will get a victory. Other fights on the card, Yan Santana, he's returning fighting Christian Cruz. I think Santana will get the win there. Kelvin Davis is back. His first fight since loss. He's been fighting Peter Dobson, which I actually think is a decent opponent. Now, Peter Dobson was undefeated not too long ago. Then he won a 3-fight skid where he fought some good opponents. He fought Conor Benn, Jalil Hackett, and Jesus Sriracha. Some of those were decently competitive. So, he's only lost to good fighters. And here, him and Kelvin Davis is actually a pretty competitive fight. And I'm really impressed that Kelvin is going right back in with another, tough opponent, not taking it easy. Also on the card, Keyshawn Davis, the third of DB3. He's going to be making his fifth pro fight, taking on Edwin Humane Jr. And then Dedrick Crocklem, another top-ranked prospect, is fighting Eric Howard. So only 6 fights in total on the card. This is also the first top-ranked card on DAZN. So hopefully it goes well and they get good viewership. I'm really excited for it. I think it's a decent card that they put together. Over in the UK, another DAZN event with Queensberry. You got Dave Allen fighting Filip Hrgovic. And look, we're going to talk about boxing. We can bring both of them up, actually. Keyshawn versus Albright and Dave Allen versus Filip Hrgovic are probably 2 of the worst main events that we'll have this year. And not to say it's going to be really bad to watch, it's going to be really boring. No. Just on paper, so non-competitive. There's nothing in it where I'm like, oh, it could go this way. Like, I am 99% confident that Keyshawn Davis will beat Nahir Albright. I am 99% confident that Filip Hrgovic will beat Dave Allen. I get it. Dave Allen, he's a big name. They get to put it in a stadium at Doncaster. And I get why they want to give him a big fight. But Hrgovic is way above his pay grade. Makhmudov dominated Dave Allen. And you want to put Hrgovic, who was way better than Makhmudov, in with Dave Allen and expect it to be even close? Like, no, it's not. He's going to dominate and probably stop him. I don't know. The British boxing does have this obsession with Dave Allen. I think somebody says that he hasn't had a non-journeyman win. He's only had one non-journeyman win in 7 years, and that was Johnny Fisher. He's not necessarily this guy who's like, he loses one, then he comes back in a big one. No, he loses to top names, and then he fights journeyman, and then he's back into a big fight. And now, they're really investing in him, putting him in all these main events and big money fights, and I'm happy for him. But yeah, this just, on paper, this just isn't even close to competitive. Hrgovic is going to run through him, and that's going to be that. Again, I don't really understand why this is the fight. Now, Filip Hrgovic, we know this is kind of setting him up, I guess, he gets a big win here in the UK. Apparently, he is in the running to be the man to fight Moses Atama on August 8th in London. And I think that that's a great pick. I think that since last August when Atama went through Dillian White, we said you should be Moses Atama and Filip Hrgovic next. They both had other fights instead, other main events. Now they're going to come and meet up. Hopefully that is the fight. If not, we think it's going to be another big one. I'm very curious to see who that ends up being for Moses Atama, but it sounds like it could be Hrgovic, and I think it's a really tough fighter and a top 10 guy, and after that, Moses is ready for a world title shot. Now, as for the undercard, I think there's some interesting fights. We were meant to have Maxie Hughes versus Louis Sylvester on here as well. I saw Maxie Hughes pull it out of the fight earlier this week, which is unfortunate because I thought that was probably the best matched fight on the undercard. But, Maxie Hughes coming off the loss to Pierce O'Leary less than 2 months, or right about 2 months ago. That's not enough time. And I was thinking he got battered in that one. He should not be returning after 8 weeks. So I think they did make the right call. Just unfortunate because I was excited for it. Other than that, you also have Michael Gomez Jr. versus Lee McGregor. Really, really interesting fight. I'm going to favor Lee McGregor in that one. I think that he is overall a better fighter, but maybe Gomez had a really good win last time, so that one could be fun. You have another British championship on the line between Louis O'Doherty and Ahmed Hatim. Both these guys undefeated, so that should be interesting. And then Carl Failed as well. I don't see his opponent on BoxRec. I know he had one announced. Maybe he's a new one. Maybe he's not on the card either anymore. Some other prospects, Joe Hayden, who's 22-0 and is fighting in another 6-rounder. Okay. Another one of their Uzbeki prospects, Asad Kuja Muidin Kujayev. I know I butchered that, but I think I did an okay job. He's fighting as well. It should be kind of fun. We'll see. A lot of prospects on this card. In fact, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4 6-rounders and 3 4-rounders. So, yeah, give me a long prelim show. UFC Apex 117, got to be honest, this is one of their weakest offerings of the year. Main event's good. Main event is Arnold Allen versus Melquizael Costa. This is a big step up for Melquizael Costa, taking on the number 7 contender. It's a big opportunity for him, and I think that he can do it. Arnold Allen, of course, coming off the loss to John Silva. I thought that was a very fun fight. I am actually going to be favoring Arnold Allen in this fight. He's the slightest of favorites, and while I love Melquizael Costa, I think he's on a phenomenal run. He's super exciting. I think this could just be a jump up a little bit too early, and I don't think that Arnold Allen by any means is a guy who's on his way out. He's had one loss to a top guy. Co-main event is Do Ho Choi versus Daniel Santos. I'm not really sure why this is the co-main event, but okay. Malcolm Wellmaker from Georgia. I'm excited to see him make his comeback after his loss at MSG. He's going to be fighting Juan Diaz. He's a minus 280 favorite, so expect another knockout there. Modestas Bukauskas versus Christian Edwards. Bukauskas a decent favorite. I mean, I'm seeing some close odds here, so these fights should be decent. But if we're being honest, it's just really nothing to write home about. It's a very, very weak UFC card and just something to fill up the schedule. Some other fights this weekend. Today in Germany, you're going to get an IBF welterweight final eliminator, Karen Chukajan versus Patty Donovan. The winner of this will be ordered to face the winner of Lewis Crocker Liam Parra, which was just announced for June 24th in Australia. I believe it's in Brisbane. Is that right? Yes, in Brisbane, June 24th. IBF welterweight world championship. Good fight, really good fight. I think Liam Parra wins that. And here, this is a really close fight. I'm very excited for it. I do think Karen is a slight favorite, and that will put Patty Donovan on a 3-fight losing streak. And he's still, in contention already for another world title shot, but I think it's a good fight. It really could go either way. I'm just leaning Karen because, I don't know, I thought his performance in the Boost rematch was amazing. He's had some wins since then. And Patty Donovan has been impressive at times. I thought that he won both Lewis Crocker fights, for being honest. Although I was okay with Crocker getting the decision in the second one, I think that this is a decent fight. It's a really good fight, and I think Karen probably wins it. And then, he'll get to go. I just hope that Patty and Crocker don't both win, and then we have to do a trilogy. I don't really want to do that. I think that's all been done. If it does, then okay, then we'll do it again. But I would rather see at least one of them lose. And maybe they both lose, honestly. I think they both could lose these fights. But yeah, looking forward to that card. I know that the main event technically is Emmanuel Odias versus Nick Webb. I don't know if that's actually going to be after or before Chukajan Donovan, because we know that's exclusively on DAZN, that fight. So we'll just have to see. Over in South Africa, you're going to have Melvin Jerusalem rematching Sia Kolwa Kus. Now, their first fight was in the Philippines. Very close fight. They're going to run it back because, Jerusalem was going to fight Oscar Collazo because of Golden Boy's DAZN thing that didn't end up happening. And instead, Jerusalem is going to go back and rematch Kus because it was a close fight. He owes him a rematch, and they're going to do it in Kus's backyard this time. And I think that could give Kus an edge. I think this is a really close fight again. Again, you have to think that Jerusalem is the slightest of favorites, but I could very well see this one going either way. So looking forward to that. Let's get into some news and notes before we wrap up. Lomachenko is apparently coming out of retirement. This is reported by Mike Coppinger as pretty much an announcement. He will come out of retirement this fall. And this announcement dropped on Tuesday, which is the same day that his top-ranked contract expired. So, I think there's definitely some reasoning behind that. He is now a free agent. And in the report, the post, they literally say he is now a free agent searching for the biggest fights possible. This is very much a Turki Al-Sheikh play. I think maybe they're trying to set up a Shakur fight for Lomachenko. I don't know, but this feels very reminiscent to when Manny Pacquiao made his comeback, went straight into a title fight with Mario Barrios. I think they're doing the same thing with Loma, and I'm actually not as mad at it because Pacquiao had been out of the ring for 3 years. Loma will have been out of the ring for about 2 years. And, he's going to be going in with a, he retired when he was still champion. It wasn't like he was, way, washed and stuff. So I don't know if he should come out of retirement. It wasn't that long ago, and he was contemplating retiring for the longest time before he decided. I mean, remember, last fight was in May 2024. I don't think he retired until June 2025. So it took him a long time to actually come to that decision. We know he had an injury, but it seems like he's back and he wants to come back into it. Katie Taylor is reportedly a done deal to fight at Croke Park on September 5th. They were kind of teasing this. I hope it's true. I think that she more than deserves that fight and that opportunity. We'll see who it's against. It could be anyone, but they just have to get that done, and hopefully it's announced soon because she needs to fight at Croke Park for her final fight. Jake Paul said that he has offered Canelo $200 million to fight him. That's what Canelo wants, and Jake is offering him. Look, dude, if that's what it's going to take, then let's do it. But honestly, at this point, I wouldn't hate Jake versus Canelo. We know Canelo's on the twilight of his career, coming off the loss to Crawford. We know he wants to go for more world titles. This fight almost happened for Cinco de Mayo last year. It was signed. It was going to happen, but then Canelo decided to fight William Skull instead. So I think this fight can happen. We know they can reach a deal, and I think that, if they're able to do as such, it's a huge fight. There's not really much for Jake Paul left. Nikisa Badarian did say that they expect Jake Paul, he expects Jake Paul will still fight again, even though Jake said the other week that he may not, and it's just a risk of the injury. But he said he'll expect that he'll also fight in MMA in 2027 to 2028. And now that MVP has their own MMA division and they'll have to go to PFL, I think that it's very likely he will be fighting in MMA and he'll probably fight a big name. But for now, I think that he should target the Canelo boxing match. There's not a lot of interest in Jake fighting these, the Andre August and the Ryan Boylans of the world. They want to see him in big super fights where, yeah, maybe he's not going to win like he wouldn't against Canelo. But I don't know. I'm more interested. That's a closer fight than him and AJ, if you ask me. So really curious if they do get it done. It's just a lot of money on the table. As you know, we had some huge fights this weekend in both UFC and boxing. Let's talk about the fallout for both those. Hamzat is saying that apparently he doesn't say this, but we heard that Hamzat only wants the Sean Strickland fight. He really wants it. He really wants that rematch. We know that immediately afterwards he said he needed to move up to 205. I think that he does need to. I think he should leave the Strickland fight in the past. But it was a close fight. It was a split decision, and he's an undefeated fighter. He's going to want that one back. The first loss is really, really tough to swallow, and he thinks he could have done better. I know that he probably could have done better. So, yeah, I can fully understand why he wants that rematch. Maybe the UFC will do it. But I think that it's in his best interest to stop doing the cut to 185. He's just too big to do it. But, yeah, not surprised that he wants that rematch. Speaking of rematches, Fabio Wardley, of course, he lost his fight to Daniel Dubois, and he has since this morning triggered the rematch clause. So he's activated it, meaning they're going to work and make that rematch for later this year. Now, of course, that was a Fight of the Year contender. It was an amazing fight. So I'm sure that, there's going to be interest to watch it again. But if we're being honest, outside of those early knockdowns, the fight wasn't really competitive. It was pretty much all Daniel Dubois. So my interest level is not insanely high, especially considering the absolute battering that Fabio Wardley took. That fight should have been stopped 4 rounds earlier. And I really don't want to see him go in there again, especially not with Daniel Dubois. I want to see him fight again, but I don't want to see him fight this year. I don't want to see him fight until at least 2027. And especially if he's going to, I don't want that to be against Daniel Dubois, who is probably the biggest puncher in the sport right now. So that's my take on it. I think this is 1,000% the wrong call. I think that Ben Davison and Fabio Wardley's team are not doing the best job they can with him in terms of doing the right thing. They should have pulled him out earlier in the fight. They shouldn't have let him activate this rematch clause, and they should not let him fight again in 2026. That's what I think. It's just not a good idea. It's not safe. And we'll see, and also, he's not going to win the rematch. He's just not. In fact, I think Fabio Wardley could lose in even worse fashion the second time around. Unfortunately, we did have the announcement today that the Ricardo Sandoval-Galalia 5 fight is now also been canceled, or postponed, they said here. So we are still going to get that fight just later in the year, I guess, which sucks because Sandoval and Yafai will both spend over a year out of the ring. Sandoval's last fight was in July. Yafai's last fight was in June. They're both going to spend a long time out of the ring, and this was already the new main event. It was meant to be Smith vs. Puello, and then co-main event Sandoval vs. Yafai, 2 world title fights on the British card, which we never see. Now there's 0 world title fights on this card. So now Josh Padley will step up to the main event to fight Aqib Fiaz. Now that's a decent fight, and I'm glad that they're keeping the card on. You still got some good things on that card. I'm just, I don't know. I am a little bit surprised. Maybe they're going to put it in a smaller arena. I know they've done that before, but I think they're just going to keep it going as is. You've got a fair amount of ticket sales on that card. And Padley vs. Fiaz is a good fight, and it's passable as a main event, I guess, just not, in a big arena like that. But we'll see. The IBF have released their statement on Usyk versus Rico. They said if Usyk loses, the title will go vacant. That's usually the case, even though it doesn't really make a lot of sense. If Usyk wins, he must defend against his IBF mandatory within 180 days. Now, his mandatory will be decided on that same night between Richard Torres and Frank Sanchez. So we'll know who they're going to order him to fight, but he's also got a WBC mandatory and Aga Cabello, and the WBA doesn't really ever order their mandatories, but it's going to be interesting because Usyk's not going to fight 2 guys within 6 months of that date. So IBF or WBC, they got to work together to figure it out. Who's first and who's next in line. I thought it was WBC, but we shall see who is next. Derek Chisora says that he may get stripped to both of them. Derek Chisora says that he wants the Deontay Wilder rematch. Look, dude, I mean, he retired, and I know he retired on a loss, but I don't know, man. That was a great fight. It was a really fun, entertaining fight. I don't think Chisora looked his best. I think that he would agree. He's not in his prime anymore. Of course he's not. He's in his 40s. I would be kind of interested to watch that fight again, I guess, but I also feel like Wilder is bigger fish to fry, and I would love to see the Deontay Wilder-Jarrell Miller fight. Chisora, I think he really should just stay retired, and I hope that those around him do not let him come back, but I'm not entirely surprised that he is trying to, come back for 51st fight. We're hearing now that Zepeda versus Roach for the vacant WBC lightweight title will instead be on August 1st in Vegas. Yeah, the June 20th date, that just never really made sense to me. I wasn't sure what promotion it would be on. There wasn't any news about it. Not really surprised that's no longer happening. August 1st seems far more likely in Las Vegas. Maybe that's a Golden Boy card or a smaller PBC card. I'm not really sure. If it is a PBC card, I surely hope it's not pay-per-view because that's not pay-per-view worthy, but it's a good fight, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. PFL announced they will make their return to Washington, D.C. on July 25th for the vacant welterweight title fight, Thad Jean versus Shamil Musayev. Finally another PFL world title fight announced. I don't know, we haven't been seeing a lot of those titles are still vacant, and I don't know why they aren't filling them out. Like, I feel like they should have done that in the first 6 months of the year instead of having all these contender fights. But look, Ramazan Kurmagomedov, he was the champion. He beat Shamil Musayev in February to win that title. He then retires afterwards. So they're like, well, shit, now we got to find another vacant title fight. So Musayev, who was very competitive in that fight, automatically back in the situation. Thad Jean won the tournament last year. I was surprised he wasn't in that title fight in February. So this is the perfect fight for them to make in the 170-pound division. Thad Jean has spent almost a year out of the cage, so really excited to see that he's back in now, and I think it's a very decent fight. So yeah, love that main event just a week after Castel Vanstinas and Johnny Edlin run it back as well. The UFC announced some fights for their Baku card. A lot of great fights, but just the main ones that we'll talk about. Asu Almabayev is going to be fighting Charles Johnson. That's a top 15. Are they flyweights or are they bantamweights? No, they're flyweights. Sorry, just had a brain fart. So that's a good fight. You're also going to be getting the return of one Bruno Ferreira. He is going to be taking on Ikram Aliskerov, and that's a fight that I wasn't really expecting, but I think it's actually a very decent fight. We know the main event there is going to be Rafael Fiziev versus Manuel Torres, and Char Magomedov versus Michel Pereira. Marvin Vettori is also returning. He's going to be fighting Ismail Nardiev. It's a really, really decent card. A lot of good fights. Nazim Sadikov versus Mateus Camilo. Daniil Doncheko, I was very impressed with him in the last fight. He's fighting Andreas Gustafsson. Abus Magomedov versus Mikhail Alexeychuk. There's a lot of good fights. I can go through all of them. But, decent card for Azerbaijan they're getting on June 27th. Moving on from there, Ellie Scottney and MVP have announced that she'll be moving to 126 pounds. I think that this is an okay move because she was undisputed at 122, but she just weren't won those titles. And I got to be honest, I would have much preferred her to stay and fight Sky Nicholson. I felt like that was the fight we were building up to. I know Ellie was building up to undisputed, but she had been calling out Sky. Then Sky was calling out her, and it's like, all right, we're finally going to get these two to fight. It's a really big fight, one of the biggest fights that can be made in women's boxing. And then right when they're both free and they both just had fights and they can have it for undisputed, Ellie moves up to 126. And I know there's big fights for her at featherweight. But I feel like Sky Nicholson just made so much sense to do that one in super bantamweight. So I'm very disappointed overall that we're not going to be getting that fight. But for Ellie Scottney, I understand not waiting around, just give her an opportunity. Maybe it's a tough weight cut and she wants to go and create more history. She's already gotten to undisputed. She doesn't need to fight Sky Nicholson, but I would have liked to see that. Golden Boy announced that their co-main event for their card next week, headlined by Omari Jones. We knew it was going to be Robin Safar. He's going to be fighting Ymir Peralta. What a fight that is. I mean, Ymir Peralta is I think he's undefeated. He's a top 10 cruiserweight. He drew with Ryan Rozicki. And here, I've been saying Robin Safar, if he wants to be considered a top 10 cruiserweight, he needs to really step up and fight another top guy. And he's doing that. He's the B-side in this fight. He's the underdog. He's fighting a top 10 Ring Magazine rated guy. This is a great fight. Or at least he was top 10. I think he may have fallen out due to inactivity. So I really like that fight. I think it's a great co-main event and looking forward to their card on Friday. Also announced, Jonathan Gonzalez will be defending his WBA interim flyweight championship against Abraham Perez June 14th in Michigan. To be honest, I don't understand why this isn't one of Salida's Puerto Rico cards. I feel like Salida's really cooking with gas now, and they're becoming a promotion. Now, they don't have the biggest fights, but this is a decent card. Co-main events can be Joshua Pagan versus Rodolfo Bustamante. Felix Pereira is back fighting Jason Sanchez, and Brandon Moore will also be on that card in a 10-round fight. No opponent yet, but it's like the first time we've seen a Salida card with the main card being all 10 or 12-round fights. So I'm really excited to watch that one, but I feel like it could have been in Puerto Rico with how many Puerto Rican fighters are on the card. but we'll take it. It's a good fight. I think it could be entertaining, and the winner of that again is in good position to fight the winner of Sandoval Yafai. There's a few mandatories out there, but we shall see. We also have the undercard has been announced for Ryan Garner versus Michael Magnesi. And I think that there are overall some decent fights. I will say I'm a little bit disappointed in what the co-main event is. Brad Pauls, I love Brad Pauls. He's going to be fighting against Bradley Goldsmith. And again, dude, like Brad Pauls had one of the best wins of the year upsetting Shaquille Thompson. And that was already a really good fight on paper. But now he's kind of stepping down for me. I know some people saying, oh, no, this isn't a step down. This is a good fight. And well, it is a good fight, I guess. And it could be exciting. Goldsmith is good. He's only had one loss. I feel like Brad Pauls is number 2 in the IBF? He should be close to fighting for a world title. He should be fighting another top 15 guy in the IBF, not fighting Bradley Goldsmith. But we'll see, dude. We'll see. Actually, that's not the co-main event. What am I talking about? Lewis Edmondson versus Lyndon Arthur. I forgot that's on the card. So this will be before that. So yeah, it is a pretty good card. We also know that Taylor Bevan is going to be stepping up. He's going to be fighting Rizard Luzvitsky. He just fought in the Heist tournament. So that's a good step up for him, I think. And he did lose his last fight also after that in a 10-round fight to Red Johnson. But, this may be a 10-round fight or at least 8 rounds. So definitely Taylor Bevan's toughest opponent to date. And then Lasha Guruli, who is I think he's from Sweden? No, he's from Georgia. He's a Georgian prospect, and he's going to be fighting Liam Dillon, who, of course, we know is a always exciting, always tough B-side opponent. It used to be A-side, honestly, but anyways, it's a really good, tough fight. I don't know if that's 8 or 10 rounds, but that should be entertaining, and that's just Lasha Guruli's 4th fight. So he's really, running up quick. So that's a really good card they have set up for St. Mary's Stadium on June 20th. Moving on from there, what else do we have? Bakary Samake versus Irmal Hadribiaj, I know I butchered that, is now been booked for May 23rd in Germany, so just next week. So pretty quick announcement on that. This fight was, of course, meant to happen in Paris. Speaking of Paris, Adam Molinini was meant to fight there. He's going to be fighting on this other card on June 20th as well. But yeah, I don't know where this fight's going to be broadcast. I think it's a good enough fight. It's a WBC final eliminator. Both guys are undefeated, so the winner of this should be the mandatory to one Sebastian Fundora, although Virgil's kind of his mandatory. It doesn't make any sense. But, that'll be next weekend. And Matchroom also announced, along with the British Boxing Board of Control, that they've approved John Hedges versus Pat Brown to be for the British Championship. It was meant to be for the English. It's now also got the British title on the line, which they wanted. And, with that being vacated by Vidal Riley, it makes perfect sense. These are probably the 2 best guys at that level. I think it's a great fight. And this is Pat Brown's first, legitimate fight. And from this point on, I think it's going to be liftoff for him, and they're going to start pushing him up very well. But yeah, glad he's going to get to fight for the British. And John Hedges is decent, but I definitely think Pat Brown beats him. But that's all I've got for today. Thank y'all so much for listening. Enjoy the fights this weekend. It's truly a historic weekend. I think MVP MMA is going to be massive. This card is huge, and I'm just so excited to see what happens in the aftermath of it and how many viewership it does. But thank y'all so much for listening, and peace out.